Hello and welcome back to the world of the spirit consciousness. We are in the middle of a book study session on the astral body and other astral phenomena. We are now in the very last video of the 19th module, which talks about invisible helpers. In this particular video session, we'll be discussing about being a helper. So we've already covered all these topics: introduction, types of invisible helpers, the work on the astral plane, responding to prayers and call for help. Now, diving straight into our topic. So, this has been subdivided into various parts: qualifications to be a helper, restrictive rules for a helper, a regular worker forming a group on the astral plane, the rise of an invisible helper in the hierarchy, and how anyone can become a helper. Coming to the qualifications, so the first quality is that of single-mindedness. This is also called as one-pointedness sometimes. So the would-be helper must make it his or her the highest priority to help others and to do the work which the master desires of him with it as a singular focus of his or her life. Also, discernment is needed between the useful and the useless work and even between the different types of useful work. So every student must dedicate himself or herself to the highest possible work that they are capable of. So optimizing the effort is the foremost law of occultism. It is also important for a pupil to do everything in his or her power on the physical plane to advance the common aim of assisting fellow humans. The second quality is that of self-control. This includes a total control on temper to ensure that no irritation is caused by what is seen or heard. This is because the impact of irritation in the astral world will be much greater than in the physical world. If an individual who has fully awakened powers on the astral plane experiences anger against someone on that plane, the former could inflict serious or even fatal injury on the latter. If excitement, anxiety, or impatience take form in the astral world, they may make the helper immediately appear as a fearsome sight. The individuals they wish to help will run from them in fear. So in a recorded instance, an invisible helper became so excited that her astral body greatly inflated in size, vibrating violently and giving out fiery colors. The newly deceased she was looking forward to help, was terrorized at the sight of a huge flaming ball moving towards him at great speed. He mistook her for the theological devil himself, and the frightened deceased fled, and the terror was increased by the would-be helper following him constantly. Also, it is important to control the nerves so that no frightening sight can hamper a brave student's courage. As mentioned earlier, pupils always made to undergo the tests of earth, water, air, and fire, as was always done in the olden days. This is to make sure that they can control their nerves and are suitable for the work that they have been assigned. The pupil must understand that in the astral body, even the heaviest rock poses no hindrance to his or her freedom of movement. They need to understand that they can freely jump off a cliff or diving into a volcano or swimming into the deepest part of an ocean with impunity. The student must be able to internalize these concepts to act upon it confidently and instinctively. Moreover, it is required for the mind and desire to be in control. This is because the power of concentration is of utmost importance to focus on the good work while ignoring the distracting currents of the astral world. It is very common to have desire on the astral plane. If it is not controlled properly, the student may face his or her own creations of which he or she would be ashamed of. The next quality that we are talking about is calmness, which means the absence of depression and worry. The majority of the work includes calming the frightened ones and cheering up those who are grieving. Hence, it is obvious that a helper can't do the work if his or her own aura is vibrating with constant worries and depression. Worrying about tiny matters is at most damaging to occult progress or productivity. So, having a positive outlook towards everything is closest to the divine perspective and hence to the truth. This is because only the positive and good is permanent, while the negative and evil is temporary by nature. Undisturbed peace leads to a joyful calm and makes depression impossible. As mentioned earlier, depression is very contagious and should be completely eradicated by someone who wants to be an invisible helper. Such a helper is identified by his/her extreme complete calmness in all possible difficult situations and his/her extreme joy in helping other people. The other important characteristic is that of knowledge. So the more knowledgeable is a person is in all and every direction, better will be his/her usefulness. They should make themselves suitable by meticulous study of all that has been written in occult literature about the astral plane and astral work. This is because they can't expect others to spend time explaining to them what they could have learned by themselves in the physical world by thoroughly reading books. Possibly, there is no type of knowledge of which an occultist has no use. The other very important quality is that of love. The last qualification is the biggest as well as the most understood one. Clearly, it is not the weak sentimentality which gushes forth in vague general statements. It is not the one that is afraid to take a stand for the right, as otherwise it will be touted as unbrotherly by the ignorant. What is required is a love that is strong enough to convert into action without talking about it. The passion to serve, which is always waiting for an opportunity of service, although it is preferably done anonymously. So, this is the emotion which arises in the heart of a person who understands the huge work of logos. Having witnessed it once, such person knows that for him or her it is the only path in the three worlds they'd opt for. They would identify themselves with it up to the maximum limit of one's power. It is to become a humble medium of the marvelous love of God. This love of God surpasses humans' understanding. It's quite similar to the peace of God. The other quality is that the last quality, I'm sorry, is that of having multiple languages as an advantage. So one must remember that two people can communicate astrally with each other on the astral plane only if they have a common language. Hence, more the languages a person knows, more useful she or he is. So coming to the restrictive rules for a helper, so the powers and training are given to a helper with certain rules. So he must never use the powers for selfish purposes to satisfy curiosity or interfere into others' business. He must not do anything that can be proven as an occurrence on the physical plane. That is, he must never give tests at spiritualistic seances. He may convey a message to the dead, but conveying a message from the dead to the living can be done only if directly instructed by his master. Hence, a group of invisible helpers is only meant to silently and directly do the work as and when they are assigned. They are neither a detective office nor an astral information bureau. So, let us see what about a regular worker and how he goes about forming a group on the astral plane. So, every night, a regular invisible helper visits the patients he has gathered, just like a doctor takes regular rounds amongst his or her patients. Thus, he has a steady stream of work available to him which he can delegate to other helpers. Thus, a regular helper has a group of helpers that band with him. Any number of workers can work on the astral plane. Anyone who wants to work in the astral world can do so, be it man, woman, or child. So, the rise of an invisible helper in the hierarchy. So, as a student of occult develops further, she or he learns to assist entire classes, nations, and races rather than simply individuals. Upon attaining the required knowledge and power, she or he starts accessing the higher forces of the astral light and the Akasha. The student is guided on how to maximally utilize each favorable cyclic influence. She is brought into a connection with the Nirmana Kanayas and turns into one of their almoners. They learn how to distribute the forces which are a result of their noble self-sacrifice. So finally, anyone can become a helper. So it is not impossible to reach the level of an invisible helper. In fact, it can be achieved by everyone, although it may take them time to reach it. Everyone is aware of someone who is grieving or in sorrow, regardless of whether they are living or dead. Hence, before going to sleep, one must make a resolution of helping that person while one is in the astral body. It is not important whether the memory of work done passes into waking consciousness. One must know for sure that something has been achieved, and someday in the near or distant future, the proof of its success will be achieved. So, when someone is fully awakened to the astral plane, it matters less what their last thought was. This is because they are capable of easily switching from one thought to another in the astral world. In such a person, the overall trend of their thoughts would hold more importance. This is because she or he gets accustomed to certain types of thoughts. The thoughts at night are likely to follow the thoughts that she or he is habituated to. So, with that, we come to an end of about anyone becoming a helper, and that brings us to an help on the topic of being a helper. And therefore, this is the last and closure of the book on the astral body book study session. It was wonderful being with you guys. Do let me know how you found the study material and stay in touch. Thank you. Bye bye. God bless.